Thank you, Steph. The federal government says tens of thousands of seniors are at risk of losing benefits because they haven't yet filed their taxes. The Liberals are asking seniors to submit their returns as soon as possible so payments of the guaranteed income supplement does not get suspended come January the 1st. The government estimating that 63,000 seniors could see an interruption in benefit payments if they do not file those returns quickly. Seniors Minister Deb Schultz says that Service Canada is reaching out through seniors organizations and as well on social media. Okay, a handful of charges were laid and more than 24 warning letters were issued over the long weekend for allegedly breaking COVID restrictions. This, as we heard of more than 1,500 new Ontario cases of COVID reported over the past 2 days. The usual hotspots leading the way when it comes to those new cases, Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa. Those three regions are now under revised Stage 2 rules, no indoor dining, the closure of gyms and theaters. The Premier says you can't please everyone when it comes to deciding whether the rules should have been tightened sooner.
It's easy to say could have, should have. Do you know what happened? I have some people saying you could have done it a few days earlier. I have the other group, you should have never done it. You should just open up everything and everyone go hog wild.
The province yesterday providing some relief for restaurants and small businesses to endure this 28-day rollback. Coming up here at 7:30, we are going to be speaking to the head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business on the impact of all of these new rules. And as COVID-19 cases continue to climb in the city, the TTC admitting that social distancing is no longer possible. In a tweet, the TTC saying in part, as the city reopens, social distancing will no longer be possible on our vehicles. As such, if you feel that a vehicle you're on is overcrowded, suggesting getting off and boarding the next one. Now, the tweet was in response to a picture of an overcrowded streetcar. When the pandemic hit, the TTC temporarily laid off 450 workers. It has since hired over half of them back, I should say. Ridership is currently around 40%, and that's compared to pre-pandemic times. Well, with Halloween just over 2 weeks away, mayors from around the GTHA are looking to the province for a clear public health message for the spooky night amid this pandemic. So municipal leaders from around the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area taking part in their weekly call discussing the ongoing COVID pandemic. They are asking the province to outline measures for October 31st that will help stop the spread of COVID. The Chief Public Health Officer of Canada saying you can still trick or treat as long as you take the right precautions.
Trick-or-treating outside with the right distancing, pre-packaging your treats so that people are not rummaging in a bowl of their bonbon candies is actually important. Having hand sanitizers for your kids.
Of course, that is Dr. Tam also saying indoor parties are a no-go, especially since Ontario is currently allowing only 10 people at indoor gatherings. The province is expected to release guidelines this week, but reminding residents that restrictions and recommendations could differ between regions. All right, let's get to the education front now. Parents in the Peel District School Board who want to switch their child's learning model between online or in person should note the deadline is today at noon. Changes will go into effect about a month from now, and the next opportunity to switch is not going to be until January. Families can make that change by contacting their child's home school by phone or email. At last point, about half of the Peel District School Board elementary students were learning remotely. Meantime, the Toronto Catholic Board is now giving families the chance to change their models. That deadline is next Monday, October 19th. Of course, we're going to be talking about that in Sound Off coming up in just a bit. Now, since the pandemic began, first in China and then around the world, reports of hate incidents against East Asian communities, they have been on the rise, especially in Toronto. And now the city trying to put a stop to it by raising awareness about these blatant acts of racism. According to the Chinese Canadian National Council, there have been over 600 anti-East Asian racism incidents reported in the last 8 months. Reported. Nearly 30% were assaults, 65% verbal harassment, and 6 out of 10 targeted women. A Vancouver woman here sharing her story. Have a listen.
I could hear him kind of loudly say a number of sexual and racial comments to me, which I ignored. I just, I didn't want to give him my time of day. And just ignore his comments. And that was when he walked past me and he actually turned around and just spat on the side of my face.
About a quarter of Canada's reported racist events happening here in Toronto, the city releasing anti-East Asian racism digital messages, which people can download and share on their social media. If you want to see more on this, toronto.ca. And coming up here, we will be speaking with City Councillor Kristen Wong-Tam, who's involved in this campaign, about what more the city can do to combat this form of racism. And so, again, that's coming up at 6:30. At 7:30, as we mentioned, we're going to be talking about smaller businesses in Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa and the impact when it comes to the province's rollback into Stage 2, that revised Stage 2, how it's impacting them. And coming up next in business, just forget about Black Friday, okay? Walmart in the U.S. may offer 3 different big online sales next month to keep everyone safe. Obviously, we're changing our approaches here. We're going to talk to Mike Epple and see what he's buying next.